Well, I could say one thing, and actually this is probably a very true angle, that silver holders of today are the modern day hippies for a new age. That's basically what the silver holders are really trying to do. They're trying to fight the system successfully or unsuccessfully. That's really what's going on. Now, honestly, I could drop, it does not seem like I'm not a big deal, okay? I'm just like an average person in a lot of ways. But I do know I have gravitated towards and have been the main accountant for big money and have seen certain things in the financial world that I don't give a crap how many decades you've been doing this or that. I'm one of the few that have seen a lot of things. And you could turn this, you could just say I'm full of a crap. I'm not even 100% sure. I do know that my great-grandfather was the illegitimate son of Duke Albert Edward, who later became Edward VII. I didn't know that guy became Edward VII later. That would surprise me. And then research came out later that his father was actually Lionel Nathan Rothschild, which would actually put Lionel Nathan Rothschild as my third great-grandfather, even though that's from my mom's side, the Italian side. Now, I swear to God, if I look back at my family history, there's been people, not everybody, but some people seem to have a little more expression of that DNA. Now, don't think I'm a turncoat, because I can tell you Lionel Nathan Rothschild could have accepted much higher position in the UK if he swore on a Christian Bible, and he did not. The guy was a man of honor in a lot of ways. So, I would like to tell you what's going on with the real elite, and I'm pretty damn sure, because it's not through inside knowledge, but it's through plain, raw common sense, and that is 90% of, well, not 90%, but that's a good faction of where I've been very useful to very powerful people, because even though I have the higher education, I have a major in higher mathematics and accounting, but not just that, I'm a studied person. I do not waste my time in bars. I do not watch sports, or I don't know anything about who plays what sports, what team is what, or what's going on in Hollywood with the latest actors and actresses. I think they all call them actors. I don't know any of that stuff. I concentrate on certain things, but since I'm a person that can concentrate on hands-on, redneck-type, blue-collar things, and still have the knowledge of, the higher education, a lot of times that helps with a raw common sense. This is why I can actually tell you what the elite are really doing, and it's very obvious. I'll just say this, for instance. They play one way with one thing, and they're actually the opposite. What they really fear, sometimes, well, I'll tell you later on this video, because I don't want to get banned or nothing. Not banned, but have the video get a yellow icon or some crap. But I'll tell you a little bit later. It's like, I wish I could say blatantly, but it's so obvious, it's beyond belief. Just look at the end results of what they do. Then you know what they're really for. You know it, and it's so obvious. But today, the silver holders are fighting what you call an uphill battle. It's like a holding game, and at one point in time, the silver's going to go way the hell up. And the reason I did not always invest 100% in silver, but I also did quite a bit of palladium, and I'm glad I did that. Everybody was mocking me for doing that way back when it was like under $200 an ounce. It's like $900 an ounce today. And that, they called me a fool, but I can tell you that palladium is going to go up exponentially as more tensions with Russia occurs. And I think they're going to continue to occur, because even though Donald Trump is kind of a maverick outsider, he has stated certain things that will piss off. Just the fact that he mentioned the swamp has pissed people off. Just the fact that he called CNN fake news. I mean, even if he can't do nothing about the quote-unquote swamp or the fake news, even if he can't do anything about it, the fact that he mentioned it, he's like the rebel leftover salmon playing a guitar, telling you about the elite. They're pissed off at him. He's persona non grata, man. Hippies use the back door. Basically, Donald Trump's a damn hippie. He's got short hair. He's a hippie in a White House, man. That's what the problem is. And he might. I still think the industrial military complex controls everything, and we're still on a collision course with Russia, because actually, if you want another angle, if you could see what's going to happen in the future, is look at the CIA predictions. The CIA predictions are the CIA goals. They predict Russia is going to fall apart. They're going to have to take their nuclear arsenal and also their all their hoards of gold and not just gold, but all the isotopes and all the diamonds and oil wells. They're going to have to take that all over the United States because it's destabilized. That's what they want to destabilize Russia. I don't think they're going to be able to do it, though. I think they're going to get in a conflict, man. And that's going to be the end of Washington, D.C., South Florida, New York City, and the Tech Valley in Washington, because we're all getting blown up. But, looking at this silver price, it's like you really can't do any analysis. Obviously anybody that's been freaking playing games with your markets and stuff and been predicting the price of silver, I figured by 2017 it would have been going up. I figured by then. But the real catalyst that's going to bring silver up is the oil prices. And if you have been noticing at the gas pump, gasoline prices are partly going up, partly due to crude oil prices, and they're going to continue to go up as tensions in the Middle East increase. But at one point in time, you remember when they had the thing with Gaddafi being attacked because he's going to do the gold standard and all that stuff? That was the real reason. Well, guess what happened? That took like 1 or 2% of the oil off the market, and that was during a time when oil went way the hell up. Right around that time, not exactly 100% in unison, but roughly. But you also look at what happened with silver and gold. They went way the hell up, and palladium. Palladium went up to, I think, $8.50 an ounce. Palladium's continuing to go up due to tensions with Russia. Now, another thing where there's another factor, and I think nobody's really talking about it. Look at what's going on in South Africa. There's like total destabilization going on. I guess I can't even say. Well, I can't say while I'm saying it. The new government wants to, knock out steal all the property from the white farmers. And by the way, I'll tell you a little tidbit about South Africa. When South Africa was discovered by these white people from Europe, believe it or not, there was no black people living there, period. One of the things is like they moved in there and they moved in on all the black people. It was empty space. There was nothing there. So guess who's indigenous to South Africa? Actually, the white guys in that case. Not Africa, but just South Africa. I just want to mention that. But they're getting knocked out of there, and the infrastructure is getting knocked down, and there's a lot of destabilization. Well, guess where a large percentage of platinum comes from? Look at the price of platinum right now. It's crap. It's coming from South Africa. I mean, I can't imagine how that's going to continue, because platinum's an industrial metal. It's about 60 to 65% industrial. Now, in the case of palladium also comes from South Africa, but most of it comes from Russia. I think about 42% of it comes from Russia. With the world supply, with 39% of the world supply coming from Norilsk mines in northern Siberia. But then the other place where palladium comes from is South Africa. There's very, very little palladium coming from anywhere else in the world. So both platinum and palladium's already taken quite a bit of a skyrocketing upward trend. But platinum looks like a damn good deal right now, not just silver. Gold, South Africa, man. It's known for it's got it. You look at the ancient texts from what do they call those? The gods, whatever they call them. In the Sumerian culture, they call them the Anunnaki. They were mining gold from South Africa. They got gold mines going back, I don't know how, way before recorded human history, for crying out loud. So with South Africa being destabilized, actually platinum and palladium and gold has got to skyrocket, not just silver. Silver's like mined all over the place. But silver's got one advantage that none of those other metals have. It's the medicinal properties, and that I've been harping on a lot. One is ionic silver, not overdoing it though. Ionic silver helps the body produce stem cells in the exact amount that's required. In other words, if you put some ionic silver on a wound and it's covered with a gauze pad, you'll notice it heals up a lot. They're putting silver in bandages, not just because they say it's antimicrobial, but it also helps the body to produce stem cells right in that area where the wound is, where it'll heal up the body like there never was a wound. But, you know, if you're taking ionic silver internally, it's going to help the body produce stem cells. That's what, you know, actually, the researcher Robert Otto Becker, MD, when he was using an electrode with very, very, very low microcurrent, it was like in microamps or something, some real low current, he found that he was able to regenerate limbs on rats with the silver electrode, but not the platinum electrode. And he didn't understand why, but you know what it was? It wasn't actually the electricity that was doing it. It was doing what was going on was that right at the point of the cut, there was where he was applying the silver electrode with a very, 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 very low microcurrent. There was ionic silver being produced right there, right where the problem was. And that ionic silver was causing the body to produce stem cells in the amount needed. And what was going on was the limb from the rat was regrowing with the bone, the muscle tissue, the skin, the fur, the whole other thing, the whole 9 yards. So obviously, you know, if it became common knowledge that, you know, ionics, it's like a theory right now. Maybe it's not proven, but it looks like it's a pretty strong theory. You know, it became common knowledge that ionic silver can help the body produce stem cells in the required amounts. Everybody would have a few ounces of silver to make a combination of ionic colloidal silver with just 9-volt batteries. What would happen if everybody just bought a few ounces of silver? There'd be no silver left. You know, it would be like the demand would go way over the freaking supply, just for medical purposes. It's amazing this angle isn't being, you know, they always talk about the fall of the dollar, you know, whatever. The dollar fell, they just come out with some other wampum paper. You know what he said in Florida, what they would come out with gator backs instead of greenbacks. They take all the, you know, the gators, and they you know, they'd sell them in Walmart as, you know, chickens or something. Here, buy a whole gator for your family, feed them for a month. And they use the skin, they cut it into little rectangles, and they stamp them with the seal, the great steel of Florida, and they make gator backs out and issue their own money. So I mean, something's going to have, they're going to, you know, the dollar falls, they're going to have something else. Yeah, the idea is that if you have dollars and they're worth nothing, that you have silver, you can trade it for the new money. Whatever. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't think it's going to work that smooth because, honestly, the elite own the banking system. So if you go to trade in silver at a future point and say there's this big crash in the dollar, they'll tax the crap out of it because, you know, they're just going to require the banks to freaking say, you know, or any of the bullion dealers to say, hey, you traded an ounce of silver for $300 or something. Well, here's a 1099 miscellaneous or something, you know, whatever. So it's going to be tough to, you're probably going to have to barter this stuff, man. So it's a great bike here, Captain America bike, except it needs a Confederate flag instead of a Yankee flag. Anyway, boy, they would never make that movie in Hollywood. Can you imagine that? Imagine if the Easy Rider was riding with a Confederate flag and he went up north and he got pulverized instead of going down south because he had a Yankee flag. Anyway, they wouldn't fly. Anyway, meow. Here's my kitty. Anyway, but maybe delayed sound there. That was, you know, you sort of boom. But anyway, the hippie movement is still going strong in a lot of ways because, you know, actually even look on YouTube, all these dissenters telling you about the government's evil, the media is evil, and actually that's true. You know, I can make a little comment here even about, well, let me just say this. You'd be stupid not to hold silver for just medicinal reasons only. Right there. It's going to go up, but you know what's going to have to happen, and I've been saying this. I actually, back in 2012, this almost happened. Netanyahu almost freaking, you know, he was ready to attack Iran, and the Mossad pulled him back, and that almost happened in May 2012. If that would have happened, oh God, man, silver would have freaking exploded back in 2012. It's like if there's a large enough conflict in the Middle East, it takes a large amount of, even a few percentage points of the oil off the market. Oil goes up, then gold goes up, then silver follows. So you look at the pattern. That's always been the case. That's always been the case. And there's always been conflict in the Middle East. I'm talking about real conflict, where they're taking some of the oil markets off. Suez Canal got closed or something. You know, now if you look at what Trump's doing right now with Syria, you know, he's doing what he's told, you know, because I think they got a bag over him. You know, he's not going to be able to like drain the swamp, but he did piss him off. He did piss him off because he says, I'm going to drain the swamp. He acknowledges a swamp out there. You know, I always look at it like I put a lot of these Confederate videos out there. I always look at it like attempting to drain the swamp since 1861, or, you know, breaking free from the district of corruption or something, or fighting against the unfair tax system. Actually, there should be rebel flag freaking silver coins, man. You know, it's in a way, I don't know, the rebel cause is almost like a little bit akin to the hippie movement, but the rebel cause has a lot more honor in it, you know, and don't wear, well, I don't know. Rebels got long hair too, anyway. But, you know, I'm going to tell you right now a little bit about, God, hey, YouTube, you love me. Anyway, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the elite really doing. You know, actually, a lot of stuff is quite the opposite, you know. Well, you look at, I don't want to say. I'll say, you know, well, actually just say this. You know, look what's going on in the Middle East. Look what's going on in Iraq. Look what's going on with sanctions against Iran. What's going, you know, not that I'm like pro those countries or anything. And look at what happened with Gaddafi, you know. Anything the elite do is actually destroying, you know, the Muslim stuff, right? They are, right? Yeah, at the same side, they're saying they're pro this and they're pro Muslim. They're not. You know? Look at the Clinton Foundation. Look what they did when they said they got all that money to freaking help out Haiti. You know what they did with that money? They kept it. You know, I'm laughing, but, you know, I mean, how come people are so stupid that are Democrats that can't figure that out? I'm going to say this. Although I was never really like a hardcore fan of Trump. I was just like a diehard, can't stand Hillary because I know she's evil witch from hell. But you know what? I'll tell you this. The liberals, what you call the liberals, which the word got twisted around. I'm like a real liberal, like, you know, I'm like Southern California, do whatever you want. That's liberal, real with. But, you know, liberals today, the word means socialist, you know, like I'm a government control freak and I want to own your life and you do what I say. Well, the liberals today are basically nothing but chumps for the elite. They are total just being used. I don't care if they've been in politics for 30 years, like, or more, like Schumer or something, to the Feinstein or whatever. They're just chumps for the elite. That's all they are, man. They're serving a purpose, and then after they serve, the purpose isn't actually the elite. The main thing they can't stand is the independent, spirited, European descent person. That's their biggest enemy. Not the fact that, you know, if you were like a sellout, like a liberal sellout, like a, you know, one of those, you know, freaking champagne liberals that live in Snob Hill or something, well, they'd be fine with you there. But if you're like an independent thinking white European type person, the elite can't stand you. But to tell you the truth, the elite are not against Caucasians. No, they just don't like independent minded ones. That's really dropping a dime on them. Look at what they're doing everywhere in the world. I don't give a crap what it is. Figure it out. I don't want to get into all the specifics because then they'll say hate speech or some shit. Hate speech means you're dropping a dime on them, man. But, you know, I just don't want to get into specifics on it. I could tell you a lot of stuff, and I could tell you exactly what's going on, and I could prove it to you. But just think about what the results of their policies really are. It's the exact opposite of what they're professing on the outside. You know, that's what's going on. So, yeah. In the dogs we trust. That's basically what it is. The dogs are the dollars we trust. Basically, you know, that's the deal with anything because, you know, politicians and people in government, they'll sell you out in 2 seconds flat. Even, you know, I always said this about, you know, I don't want to knock law enforcement all the way because, you know, it's got extremes. You got really bad ones and you got really, really good ones that put up with a lot more crap than I ever have to put up with. But, you know, basically the concept of law enforcement is exactly what the word says, law enforcement, right? And, you know, it may come down to a point with silver, you know, where the law says you can't own any. Now, how are they going enforce it? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it'll go online and check your freaking history and say, did you mention that you own silver? Well, we're going to raid you. Anyway, but, that's what they might do. I don't know. But, what I always say is they basically enforce whatever laws are out there. And, who runs the show, right? The money. So basically they're a tool of the money, right? That's why you got to watch, I mean, these conservatives, that kind of piss me off because I'm like thinking, these guys are all like law and order. Like, how about law and how about disorder? Just people have fun. I don't care, man. I'm not out here to freaking push what you got to think or say or whatever you got to do, right? So I'm actually, I'm a hard worker and a lot rational person, but I don't get into, you got to do this, you got to think this way, and whatever. But it's a lot of common sense why you should own silver because, it's the medical reasons only right there. I mean, there's no other precious metal can you stick in a glass of water, even just, dropping a 3/9 silver in a glass of water and have it have antimicrobial properties. Only silver does that. Copper does that a little bit, but copper's more toxic. Now, actually, if you wanted to really go high-end using applied frequencies to the body instead of using copper paddles and stuff, you would use pure silver paddles, believe it or not. And you'd have, the benefits of ionic silver getting on the skin and possibly into the bloodstream in very minute amounts, besides all those health benefits. You see, I think, if I was like a major media guy, I could make silver skyrocket right to the moon. Not over fear of the dollar or the Federal Reserve or, the collapse of the Western financials. I can make it skyrocket to the moon just over freaking medical reasons. And honestly, it's true. Honestly, it's true. It's honestly, that is something that's very beneficial to people, even more so than wealth. What's more important than wealth? Health. You could be surviving a long time like this old Jeep over here from World War II. I mean, you could be a spry young chicken as long as you keep yourself fully restored at all times, and silver's one of the ways to do it. But, who's pushing that angle? Nobody. Very few. I mean, they don't actually, they push it from a colloidal, they tell you how to make colloidal silver or something. Yeah, and there's better ways to make it, but you can make it with 3 freaking batteries and a little resistor. It's just as easy. Nothing that difficult, So, Marilyn Monroe could have been fine, looking great today if she didn't freaking open her big mouth, and she could be young if she was using colloidal silver, ionic silver on her skin with oils. That'd be another interesting thing too. What would happen? We talk about the carbon C60 in olive oil, and you can actually take carbon C60 straight and absorb it through your skin. But what would happen if you took, your colloidal silver and you mix it in something else, and maybe there's a way to have it absorbed in an oil. I don't think oil and water really mixes well, but say you can get a little bit of that colloidal silver, ionic silver mixture in the oil itself. Would it be absorbed in the body better? Maybe. There's a lot of research that can actually be done here, but you'll never know the results until decades later that if you see a 80-year-old person, they look like they're 25, and you say, well, I've been taking this special solution of hemp oil and colloidal ionic silver mixture for every day of my life, and well, then it would sell, obviously, but you're never going to know until you experiment. So anyway, but one of the guys that was out there, and you see this, I mentioned Trump on some of these videos because I'm not a guy that wears a MAGA hat. I'll wear a Confederate hat. Make America great through Southern independence. But well, you never know with Trump, man. You never know. If he's got some stuff going. I heard these conspiracy things that he's getting ready to freaking put the hammer. He's waiting. He's biding his time. All these people are going to get slammed. Well, I don't know. I remember President Kennedy tried to freaking drain the swamp for real, and guess what happened to him? Please be careful. Yeah, well, wasn't careful enough. But I think in the case of Trump, he's got the Italian mafia more or less on his side. He's worked with them. see Kennedy dissed him. He got $1 million from him, and he said, well, he turned his back on him, started investigating him and stuff. No, you don't do that. You want them Italian boys being your buds, man, because they're very honorable, just like Confederates. A little bit different, but they're the good Northerners, the Italian guys. Anyway, global warming, the UK's only hope against glaciers, and actually, that's another thing that's coming out. I think you're not gonna be able to tell global warming is BS or something or whatever. I always look at it like this, you can't tell the truth anymore on the airwaves because, the big gorilla behind, it's not, Google owns YouTube, but, Google government and you got the, whatever, there's a big gorilla behind the whole freaking, venues where we talk on these things. YouTube used to be YouTube, you can say whatever you want, right? Now there's a big gorilla back there saying, no, you can't say that. But, honestly, even with this, the truth's going to come out. The truth's going to come out with silver. The truth's going to come out with the freaking banking system. If you look at, your brokerage accounts, hey, they ain't insured by the FDIC. I'd like to know how that's going to work in the financial crisis. You ever think of that? Yeah. Oh, we're going to short the market. Well, say the whole thing just goes, But, the deal is with, what was I saying again? I forgot. But, there's a certain angle that people aren't looking at all the time. And, that's the angles I try to look at, Not just silver from freaking the dollar freaking falling apart. Think of it as like your health and beauty and your vitality. Ionic silver raising the stem cells in your body, colloidal silver being antimicrobial. Everybody ought to have this stuff. If they advertised it on TV left and right, everybody would be buying it. There'd be none left. The price would go right through the roof, Then you'd really be sitting on a freaking lot of money, right? Just from that angle, without the dollar collapsing or nothing. So, but, people, oh yeah, and the other thing I was going to say is the truth's going to come out, like, right now, I think I heard, I don't know if it's true or not, I heard they're trying to, stifle people that criticize the global warming theory or something, whatever it is. And by the way, what's his face? Al Gore. He's got this beach house or something, multi-million-dollar. Uses, I don't know. He's got like 12 bathrooms in it, and it's located in an area that would be flooded if the ice caps melted. Like, this guy doesn't even believe what he's saying. It's a deal. It's a concept they threw out there to try to get everybody to pay a global karma tax to fund a global power, right? But, the truth's going to come out this way because we're going in a mini ice age. And if you look, especially in the Northeast United States and the Midwest United States, the winters are going to be record cold, including all of Northern Europe. And there's going to be food shortages. And I'm thinking, due to the weather actually curtailing the growing season. So, if you see like this 6-foot snowstorm in New Jersey, it never happened before in all recorded history, and they're telling you global warming, worry about the, nobody's gonna believe it anyway. Nobody's gonna believe it. Or that snowed a lot. Like when it snows a lot up north, they always say, "Well, it snowed a lot because of global warming." Yeah, it's cold because it's global warming. It'll tell you, common sense. Of course, the professionals with all the degrees, they go along with it. Yeah, well, I read that in the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, man. That's why I ride a motorcycle too, man, or whatever. I'll be riding my bike again anyway. I don't know if I could take my cat on there. Maybe little Onyx. Give me some goggles. That'd be probably too scared. But anyway, I just figured I'd give you a little update on this thing. It's more like a psychological update. But, if you think you screwed up with buying silver, you didn't, because, you're probably not using it. I know you probably got, even if you got 10 ounces, you got enough to make umpteen gallons of freaking colloidal ionic silver. But just think about it. Think about the health reasons. It's amazing people aren't doing that. I don't know why. I don't know. It's like you got to be conditioned with a lot of advertising. Well, that's what funds YouTube, right? Advertising. Hey, advertising. We'll tell you to buy this and that. But, nobody's out there saying, Actually, what they ought to be doing, they ought to be making beauty products with this colloidal silver in a damn thing. They ought to be doing that, you know? Clint Eastwood looked like he was back in 1960 if he was doing that. He's in pretty good shape, though. Anyway, I don't want to knock him. But anyway, said enough. And basically, you guys out there and gals with the silver, you're like the hippies. You really are. You're like the hippies of the 60s with a different twist in a lot of ways. You know, I also realized what happened with the hippie movement. It started out as one thing, and it was actually created for one thing, too. But then there was a lot of honorable people in there, too, believe it or not. The honorable people's voices got crushed because they were pointing out how the military-industrial complex was financing not just our side of the Vietnam War, but also giving money to Russians, selling them goods, which they in turn were given to China, which they in turn were given to North Vietnam. You know, those voices of the hippie movement got crushed, you know. You'll see them. You could dig them out, though. But, you know, I really can't, you know, I could state this for an absolute fact, that when there's a major conflict in the Middle East, and I'm talking something significant, and you see gasoline prices, you know, oil goes up to $150 to $200 a barrel, you say, no, it's going to. When there's a major conflict, it's not going to stay there. But when that happens, silver's going to take a crazy spike, along with gold and platinum and palladium. And that's when you're going to dump it. What are you dumping for? Maybe real estate. Maybe some other type of hard goods. Maybe metal industrial building that you could put on your real estate that's low tax, that it's a survival shelter or storage shed or whatever the hell it is. You know? Stuff like that. You know, usually the people with the most money, they're heavily invested in real estate. But, you know, the type of real estate they're invested in is usually something that is a cash cow in itself. It's not that you just have to maintain it with taxes. You know, it's like, well, that's what Trump's got, right? You know, golf courses and casinos and hotels and blah, blah, blah. You know. So anyway, over and out. A little food for thought. A couple other angles out there. If you really want to know what the elite are doing, look at the results of what they're doing. Actually, the exact opposite of what they say, man. And I'm telling you, the liberals are chumps. They're chumps for the elite. You know, my thing is, like Burger King, have it your way. As long as it ain't on me. As long as it's on you. You know what I mean? If you want this to happen, you want that to happen, as long as it's on you. Have it your way, liberal. Well, yeah, I'm all for like free